The Dutch Grand Prix of 2025 arrived at a critical moment for Ferrari. The team carried the heavy weight of expectations after a season riddled with inconsistencies. Monza was looming, the symbolic home race, and Zandvoort became the stage where Ferrari desperately needed to regain credibility. The tension was visible even before the lights went out. The SF25, Ferrari's latest creation, had already shown glimpses of brilliance but remained plagued by chronic balance issues, especially rotation through slow and medium-speed corners. Zandvoort, with its unique mix of banked turns, narrow entries, and unpredictable grip levels, would expose those weaknesses to the fullest. Both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton entered the weekend with contrasting motivations, Leclerc craving redemption, Hamilton still seeking to justify Ferrari's bold decision to bring him into Maranello for one last chapter of his storied career. The entire paddock knew that Ferrari's ability to keep pace with McLaren and Red Bull depended not on raw talent but on whether the car could finally deliver stability. From the very first laps of practice, the SF25 revealed its flaws. Engineers spoke cautiously of rotational inefficiencies, a technical euphemism for a car unwilling to turn as sharply as the drivers demanded. Leclerc wrestled with understeer, while Hamilton struggled with rear overheating. Ferrari's setup compromises became evident. If they solved front-end grip, the rear overheated. If they stabilized the back, the car refused to rotate. The contrast with McLaren's finely tuned MCL60B was painful. Still, Ferrari's engineers reminded the drivers that strategy and weather might offer opportunities. Rain forecasts suggested a light drizzle around lap 11, an unpredictable factor that could shuffle the order. For Ferrari, that meant hope. But under the surface, tension grew in the garage. Mechanics whispered about the fragility of the hybrid system. Strategists debated whether to start on mediums or hards, and executives for Maranello made their presence uncomfortably felt. Everyone knew that failure here would amplify pressure ahead of Monza. When the 5 red lights went out, Leclerc delivered brilliance. Launching aggressively, he dived inside George Russell at turn 4, seizing 5th place with bold precision. The Monegasque looked alive, as if determined to drag the car beyond its limits. Hamilton's start was calmer, holding 7th, his experience evident in tire management as he struggled to bring the mediums up to temperature. For a moment, Ferrari looked competitive. Radio chatter revealed optimism. Rain expected in 5 laps. Stay in position. Leclerc's engineer urged patience, knowing that an early attack on Isaac Hadjar's Racing Bull could compromise long-term strategy. But Ferrari's story at Zandvoort quickly settled into an uncomfortable rhythm. Leclerc's SF25 lacked the straight-line speed to threaten Hadjar even with DRS, while Hamilton's rear-end instability forced him to defend rather than attack. By lap 10, the drizzle arrived, lightly soaking the final sector. Strategy boards lit up across the pit wall. Ferrari for once looked prepared, but in Formula One, preparation often crumbles against chaos. By lap 44, Hamilton's frustration grew. "Only way to pass is with an undercut," he radioed. His race engineer began crunching numbers, waiting for a safety car or a dry window. But before any move could be executed, disaster struck. Hamilton carried too much speed into turn 4, misjudging grip as the dampness worsened. The Ferrari snapped sideways and slammed into the barrier. Silence followed for a split second. Then the safety car was deployed. For Ferrari, it was a dagger to the heart. A 7-time world champion signed to guide Ferrari back to glory had made a rookie-like mistake. Hamilton's dejection was audible in his radio tone. "Sorry, guys." Leclerc, meanwhile, had just been called into the pits. The timing, coinciding with the yellow flags, proved catastrophic. Others benefited from cheap pit stops, while Ferrari lost track position. What could have been a tactical masterstroke turned into another reminder of Ferrari's cursed luck. Emerging on hard tires after his stop, Leclerc faced the unenviable task of chasing George Russell again. On the restart, he unleashed a masterclass in aggression. Using DRS into the chicane, he threw his Ferrari alongside Russell, braving the gravel with half his car off track to complete the move. Contact ensued. Russell fumed over the radio, demanding a penalty. Leclerc, unapologetic, argued he left no space. The stewards postponed judgment until after the race, leaving Ferrari in limbo. The audacity of Leclerc's cast electrified fans, but beneath the spectacle lay technical fragility. Engineers urged him to back off Hadjar's Racing Bull to preserve tire health. Leclerc obeyed reluctantly, aware that pushing too hard would cook his hard compound long before the finish. Ferrari once again found itself caught between flashes of brilliance and the harsh reality of its limitations. As the drizzle faded, strategy became paramount. Ferrari considered a 2-stop plan, codenamed Plan C, to counter rivals, but whispers of incoming rain kept uncertainty alive. Leclerc's pace remained inconsistent, with temperatures fluctuating dangerously. Engineers constantly asking him to manage lift and coast techniques, particularly into Turn 3 and Turn 10, to cool the power unit. Meanwhile, rivals seemed unbothered, their machinery more adaptable. Fans could sense the tension. Leclerc's car danced on the edge of competitiveness, fast enough to tease podium potential, but fragile enough to collapse at any moment. Ferrari's pit wall grew divided. Should they pit early to chase undercuts or hold steady, gambling on rain? This hesitation, visible through long radio silences, foreshadowed disaster. By lap 44, Ferrari made its fateful call. Leclerc dove into the pits for soft tires, aiming to cover Kimi Antonelli's stop. It looked bold, perhaps too bold. Returning to the track, Leclerc encountered Antonelli side by side at turn 4. Neither yielded. Contact was inevitable. The Scarlet SF25 spun violently, gravel flying, hopes shattering. "Unbelievable," Leclerc exclaimed, voice breaking. "Another Ferrari out, another double retirement." The pit wall fell silent. Strategy, timing, and fortune had conspired against them. Television cameras captured fans in red, hands on their heads, replaying a nightmare they had lived too often. With both Ferraris retired, the debrief began immediately. Analysts noted that Leclerc's crash wasn't purely driver error, it stemmed from Ferrari's decision to pit at a congested window. Meanwhile, Hamilton's crash highlighted deeper discomfort with the SF25's balance. Together, they painted a grim picture. Ferrari's drivers, one a future star and the other a legend, undone by a car unworthy of their skills. In the press room, team principal Fred Vasseur defended the squad. "We need to regroup. This is painful, but Monza awaits." Yet his words rang hollow. For fans, patience was exhausted. The Dutch Grand Prix of 2025 was not an isolated disaster, but the latest in a chain of missed opportunities. Ferrari's inability to build a car adaptable across circuits has haunted them since 2022. Their tire degradation issues, their compromised aero balance, and their reactive rather than proactive strategy calls all resurfaced here. Even Leclerc's heroics could not mask structural flaws. Analysts drew painful comparisons to the Alonso years, when brilliance at the wheel could not compensate for mediocrity in machinery. The nightmare of Zandvoort reinforced a truth. Ferrari is no longer feared, merely pitied. All eyes now turn to Monza. For Ferrari, the Italian Grand Prix is more than a race. It is a matter of identity. Arriving with 0 points from Zandvoort and a fractured morale, the Scuderia faces the most important test of its season. Fans will demand redemption, tifosi will roar with impatience, and executives will scrutinize every decision. Hamilton must bounce back from humiliation, Leclerc must channel aggression without recklessness, and Vasseur must prove he can lead a crisis. The SF25, battered and doubted, will roll into Monza under the heaviest pressure imaginable. The double retirement in the Netherlands wasn't just another bad race, it was a warning. Ferrari's window of redemption is closing. If they collapse again at home, the fallout could redefine the future of Maranello in Formula One.